Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to put this video out in response to a tweet put out by Kash Patel, who is the current director of the FBI, where he's saying something to the effect of like, oh, if you see a local cop, thank them. If you see your local FBI agent, give them a hug. Okay? And my response to that is obviously, I don't think so. But before I play that clip, I want to play some clips here of Kash Patel prior to his being director of the FBI. And I want you to listen to the kinds of things he was talking about.
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list?
Who has
Care Bear Stein.
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
Okay, so right now they're talking about Jeffrey Care Bear Stein's Black Book, and he is talking about how they don't want that information coming out and how the FBI has it and that it is under the direct control of the director. So he, like I said, this is before he became the director. So it's like, okay, does that mean you now have control of that information and you guys aren't doing anything about it after the botched rollout with the influencers and the binders? We did a video on that. I'll link it in the video description if you don't know what I'm talking about. So it's a little interesting, right?
Reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops.
Okay, so he was doing an interview on the Sean Ryan CIA guy podcast, and he's talking about how, oh, on day one, I would shut down the J. Edgar Hoover building, I would turn it into like a museum, and then the next day I would reassign all of these 7,000 agents.
What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Simple.
And I agree with that. I agree with what are all those people doing there, but my question would be then, okay, so what have you done to get rid of these folks, right? How many people have actually been like cleansed from the FBI? This is the same FBI that did Ruby Ridge, Waco, Oklahoma City, the Whitmer hoax, orchestrated the Day of Infamy in January of 2021. Like, nothing has been done about any of that stuff, and nobody has been removed. You know, I haven't seen mass firings. I haven't even seen them, you know, going after like the very obvious people that you could go after, which would be, you know, investigating the agents who orchestrated the Fednapping hoax. And that's because half of those men have already been acquitted. They've been found not guilty. And so there's obvious claims of misconduct, of entrapment. Why wouldn't you? That could be one of the first things that you do. And I heard him talking about a list of things on day one of declassifying all these documents, doing all of these things. Now he's in there and he's saying, I am 1,000% behind this FBI. And we're getting these kinds of photo ops with the helicopters, and we're showing a very, like, I don't know, militarized FBI. This is the same FBI that executed the elderly Craig Robertson in his front yard because he was posting memes on Facebook. And like, we don't want to see these guys, you know, in their MRAPs, in their tanks. You know, why do we want to see this paramilitarized version of it? And I'm not the only person who has kind of pointed this out. I know Free State Will, who is one of the people who was pardoned, you know, for the crazy charges they were going after him for J6. So he's a J6er, and he's like, hey, when are you guys going to investigate like this day, this event that we all know you had these FBI agents that were there that day, you had people in plain clothes, you had undercover DHS, MPD. When are we going to get the truth about this, right? You know, who was behind the pipe bomber there? Like, let's get real. You know, we want to see action. And while I think it's nice that he has been going after these people on the most wanted list and all of that, it's like, okay, but what is the real priority here? I would actually assume it would be getting rid of these duplicitous horribly corrupt agents that are embedded in your organization, sir, that like you have yourself have talked about. So this is the tweet I'm talking about, and you guys are free to disagree with me if you want. I'm trying to be as fair as possible to Kash because, I like a lot of the things he says, but I'm becoming very disillusioned very quickly. So he says, the next time you see a cop, thank them. The next time you see law enforcement protecting our schools, shake their hand. The next time you see an FBI agent faithfully keeping our streets safe, maybe give them a hug. These are the brave men and women doing the work to protect American cities. No, sir, I'm not going to hug the people who are responsible for doing what they did to Craig Robertson in his front yard. I'm not going to hug the people who framed a group of innocent men for a fake kidnapping plot. Not happening. I'm not going to hug the people who orchestrated J6 and then spent 4 years hunting people down, doing pre-dawn tactical raids, causing one man's wife to miscarry and lose their child. You think I want to hug these people? Are you out of your mind? Like, that's, I don't get. I know he is trying to restore, quote unquote, trust in the government and in these agencies. Well, the best way to do that would be to get rid of the people who were in those agencies who engaged in gross misconduct and who are corrupt and really treasonous individuals who hate the American people and certainly the people who voted for this administration. And I just thought that this was kind of interesting. Kash's testimony interrupted by a protester screaming, "The greatest threat to global security is the Care Bear Nation, and the whole world knows it." Of course, Tom Cotton has gotten lots of money from the Care Bear lobby there, so of course he's their greatest defender. As you can see, he's taken in quite a lot of money from that organization. And I do think it's, as they point out, interesting series of events given what we found in the JFK files. Indeed, but I tend to see this kind of thing as more or less theater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Witness will suspend.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So, now, we have this also. Is it time to reveal the truth about Ray Epps? This is Kash's appearance on Tim Pool, and I would say yes, of course.
I think, as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender who defended a lot of these types of cases, what you need to show is whether or not the FBI and government agents were using undercover operatives and informants on the day of January 6th, because if you can show that, they've been out. Hang on. But the paperwork shows having run informants, that's a 6-month buildup.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is how, this information will obviously be there in the actual files, like in the FBI files. So my question then is, how long has he been in there, and why hasn't that information been released yet? Why haven't they even finished releasing the 14,000 hours of CCTV footage? Like, these are legitimate questions. Johnny Midnight says, would you support Kash Patel firing every agent involved in withholding the Care Bear Stein list from us? Yes, I sure would, but I would say that it's not that simple as there being a quote unquote list. Like, I would look at Nick Bryant and what, his work on that and what he has said, which is that information has already been available. It's called the Black Book. It's been out there for a long time. If you want to know who some of his associates were, who he was talking with, it would be there where you would begin. And there's people like Leslie Wexner where we don't have to have any documents to confirm it. We know, and nothing is being done to go after those people as co-conspirators, which is what they were. Richard says, I would support Kash releasing every PatCon document and documents concerning subsequent PatCon type UCOs in the 1990s, which were intertwined with Ruby Ridge, Waco, and OKC. I agree. Until we start getting document dumps of things like that, I'm looking at a lot of this as just being simply political theater. And indeed, we're getting a lot of pictures like this. We've got Kash and Dan Bongino, and they're saying, oh, yeah, we're taking over the FBI now, but you're taking over a corrupt and disgusting organization, and you have to get rid of those agents. Why don't you bring in new ones? You're going to have to at least do some prosecutions. And this is a good point by academic agent. This was a direct quote. He said this on Fox News. We need America to wake up and prioritize the Care Bear Nation. That was said on Fox News. And for anybody who is thinking that maybe I'm being unfair or a little harsh in my criticism, I will share this article from the Washington Examiner. Kash Patel is off to a strong start. Though highly controversial when nominated, Kash Patel has impressed in the first 5 weeks on the job. Members of Congress from both parties have been heartened by his energetic response to their requests for records. So maybe that's one thing he is doing better, certainly, than Christopher Wray, is being more forthcoming with these records and handing that information over to Congress. I would like to, have my FOIA requests responded to also. They're still sitting there with no response. Patel has appeared poised and well briefed in his testimony on Capitol Hill. He's positioned himself apart from the furor over inclusion of a journalist in these conversations. You guys know Mike Waltz bringing in the dude from The Atlantic into the group chat discussing these strikes in Yemen. That could be a whole other video if I felt like making it. Patel's effort to provide speedy responses to congressional requests for records is notable. Yeah, but we're not getting any requests for anything that really matters. Like, the records pertaining to PatCon, pertaining to Ruby Ridge, Waco, OKC, all of these things that are part of the history of corruption with the Bureau. And it should also be noted that he is also running the ATF at the same time he is the FBI director. I also find that to be a little odd, something to consider there. But where are the record requests for documents pertaining to the Fednapping or J6 or anything like that? That hasn't happened. It is kind of like, in a way, it's this distracting kind of thing of like, oh, look at this thing that, isn't really that important. We're going to respond to these requests, but they're nonsense requests. They're not for anything that's terribly important. They say that he's pushing forward with organizational reforms designed to reduce the Bureau's bloated top-level bureaucracy and drive more decision-making powers to field offices. I think that that's actually one of the good things he's doing, and hopefully that will work out. If successful, this will boost morale and mission efficacy. Well, how about, what would boost morale, I think, would be getting rid of the people who were there for 4 years, like I said, hunting people down for political purposes. And how about the agents who knew about it, who sat there and did nothing and just went along with it, that chose not to blow the whistle, to be cowards? Like, why should these people have high morale? They have to earn back the trust of the American people, and it isn't going to be overnight, and it's certainly not going to be until we see some people held accountable for their crimes and literally marched out of the office, prosecuted, put into handcuffs, investigated for their crimes. I think that's super, super important. So they're saying that, he is said that he will run the office without partisan bias. That's nice. Another positive has been his apparent commitment to adequately resourcing the FBI's critical national security missions. This is why you see him focusing a lot on the deportations, talking about, these gangs like MS-13 and things like that. And he's also said that he sees every state in the country as a border state. So I think that that's, in some ways, this is good. It's encouraging rhetoric, but is it more than that? That's the question. And like I said, the bigger threat than all of that stuff is the people that are already in these agencies that have been running them and going after innocent Americans. And part of it also is like, we don't really want a militarized FBI global police force. Like, I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that they should even have firearms. My goodness. But now we're going to, turn them into this super militarized agency, and we're all supposed to celebrate because Christopher Wray was replaced with Kash Patel, but there has been no actual change inside the agency. None of the agents have actually been held accountable for anything, and they are just continuing on with the same people. And now we're supposed to rally behind the agency just because they changed the front, like the public facing director of that agency. No, I don't think so. I think we should expect more than that. And so that's all I'm kind of pointing out here, but I'm interested to know what you guys think, of the rhetoric that he was saying before he got in versus like what we have seen so far. And granted, he is still early on into his tenure as director, and he still has a lot of things he can do in the future, and maybe hopefully will do. But I'm interested to know what you guys think. Do you think that now magically you should be thanking your local cops and hugging your local Fed? Because I don't, and I'm not going to. I would like to start seeing them held accountable for their litany of crimes. And I would like to see the agency actually reformed from the bottom to the top, not just from the top down, or this just changing of the guard at the top. That's not enough to fix the systemic problems here. But I'm interested to know what you guys think, and I hope you all have a good day. Whee!